this is just a great opportunity for us to have a moment to just listen to each other and learn from each other. And we can't do that without leaders in our community, such as the folks here at Black Lion Foundation. So I'm Marcus Owens. A little bit about me before I get into what we do at the forum. I'm a son of this city. My folks came here over 120 years ago by way of North Carolina and Louisiana and Indiana and Sweden.
Oh.
So my whole family converged here in the early 1900s, but they were looking for a better opportunity, right? And they parked themselves over here on the north side, on my mom's side, and my family grew up in the Sumner Fields, if folks know the history of Minneapolis. And then my dad's side is from the south side, and they came by way of Alabama, and they came to the south side back in the 60s during the first wave of the migration. So I've been here, I've been embedded, and I bring that with me in the work that I do, because I made a concerted decision about 6 years ago to put what I know and what I was given, because the community invested in me. I remember going as a little dude with my grandfather to every little grocery store in the north side, every shop, because I was the grandchild after he retired, so I got to follow him everywhere he went. I was at the Combs bowling lanes back in the 80s and whatnot, but all I saw from them was this point in, like, oh yeah, you're Jack's grandson, you're Greg's son. Okay, yeah. Here goes some food. Hey, here go do this for me. But constantly giving me lessons. So that propelled me into my own personal career, my own personal life, and gave me opportunities that I probably wouldn't have if it wasn't for the people that were around me. So I say that all to say that 6 years ago I made this decision that it's about what I have to offer to others and how I can help solve for problems that other people are having. And I started by coming into an organization called the Northside Economic Opportunity Network. And that organization was really about how do we promote entrepreneurship in a community that has been decimated over the last 30 years and have been constantly disinvested and people leaving and constantly going into different directions. And all the solutions that were being generated were about providing people charity or providing people a job versus seeing themselves as the employer. So entrepreneurship became a vehicle that I saw as a way to solve problems that we had in the community. And then 2 years ago, I made this decision to go into this next form of leadership. And the African American Leadership Forum is an organization that is a network of over 3,500 African American leaders and allies that want to make a more just and healthy society for everyone across the Twin Cities, across the state of Minnesota. And we do that by connecting and making meaningful connections across systems, across sectors, across leaders in our community. We see leadership in our community as really more of a spectrum versus a monolithic. You know, James mentioned earlier, like one leader, we can't have one leader. We got to have a lot of leaders, and there's different type of leaders, and it's all about what kind of leader you are. And so we said, well, what if we started to think about how we redefine leadership? Leadership to us says that you're a thought leader, meaning that you can make sense of all the things that are happening. You can bring context. You can be a thought leader when you start to tell stories and tell history of what's happened before. And you're also a thought leader when you can actually put solutions forward and say, this is the blueprint, now go. The next type of leader is a builder. This is the person who said, look, just tell me what needs to get done. I can build people, I can build projects, I can build organizations. I can just give me the blueprint, I know what to do next, right? The next type of leader is an influencer. It's like, look, I can get on the street, I can organize people, I can activate them, I can get them moving, right? I can go into boardrooms, I can go into other places of influence, and I can tell people, remove this barrier, bring these resources in. Those are influencers. And then you have ambassadors. These are the trusted voices in our community. These are the people that you go to and find out what's happening. What do I need to know? What is it good, is it bad? But then when you think about these four type of leaders, they all work together. No one's more important than the other at any given time, and they're needed at different intervals as we start to solve problems. So I mentioned entrepreneurship, and I mentioned me wanting to solve problems. All this is us taking our leadership and solving our own problems and coming together and doing it because we can't do it alone, right? So making meaningful connections means that we're bringing these people together. we rally support. So when community says, hey, this is what needs to get done, this is what needs to happen, we want to bring those leaders together and say, all right, let's make it happen. So we want to rally support and use the collective as a way to do that. 3, we want to bring resources. So because we have people in places of influence that are part of this network, we say, hey, we need resources, both financial and non-financial resources, to come in and say, this is the thing that needs to get done. And then lastly, we create space so that we can share our voice, because too often other people are telling our story versus us, right? So that's what the forum does in a nutshell. I can go into all the programs and all that thing, but like when you think about what do we do, that's what we're all about, right? An example of what's kind of taken place this year in particular, because of COVID, because of the unrest, we had to figure out how to create space so we can tell what's actually happening, because there was a lot of misinformation early on in COVID. People were like, oh no, you can't get it by hugging somebody, you can't get it by, well, why don't we bring the experts in our community to the table, the doctors, the nurse practitioners, and let them tell you what's going on from our perspective, from our lens, so that you can trust the voice versus trying to listen to Dr. Fauci or anybody else, right?
Right.
Like, I love Dr. Fauci, but sometimes he doesn't speak to me, right?
Right.
So we do a virtual town hall bi-weekly. For the first half hour, we have a nurse practitioner saying, this is what's happening, this is what you need to know. We partner with Children's Minnesota, North Point Health and Wellness, and Minnesota Community Care. And then Insight News is our media partner to really deliver this product bi-weekly. At first, it started with just like, all right, let's just get something on the street and make sure that people know what's going on. And then it evolved because we realized COVID wasn't just impacting our health. We had a triple pandemic going on. We were losing our jobs. Our businesses were closing. So economically, we're going through a pandemic. And then our kids had to be sent home from school, and they didn't have the resources. Now we're getting hit by an educational pandemic, right? So then you have these 3 things going on. We're like, wait, we got to bring the experts from education. So we brought the superintendents from our community, the teachers from our community, the people that work with young people from our community to talk about how education's impacting. Then George Floyd got murdered. And then the uprisings happened. And then we said, wait a minute, we need to hear from the people from our community that are on the street organizing, the people that are talking about abolishing police. Bring them to the table and say, this is what's going on, this is what you need to know. And then community safety was an issue. We're like, oh, okay, another thing, bring it up. We need to do, and before you knew it, we've been doing this for now 6 months. And constantly, today we did one, thank goodness for this one. So go on to our Facebook page, African American Leadership Forum, Twin Cities. You can see it was all around COVID-19 and Black joy. Like for once this year, we have to laugh and smile. So we have people that are in the business of making people laugh and smile, talk about how they're making people laugh and smile through all of this chaos, right? So that's one way that we started to step up and create space and then rally support. But then we realized that we have this space of entrepreneurship and economic development that really is the core to everything that's happening around us. Without economic opportunity, it impacts education, impacts housing, impacts food security, impacts community safety, impacts everything, how we're policed, right? So we created a collaboration with 7 Black-led and serving business support organizations. You have the Minnesota Black Chamber of Commerce, the Black Women's Wealth Alliance, NEON that I used to work at, Neighborhood Development Center, West Broadway Business and Area Coalition, Social Impact Strategies Group, and Just Law. These are all organizations that their sole mission is to help Black businesses. Nobody else, just let me get down on the street with those folks. And they provide training, and capital, access to market, and technical assistance. So we're like, wait, you all are working with these folks that are on the street. What can we do to support you all and bring you all together? And so they've formed a business collective, Black Business Support Collective. And really what they're doing is creating more resources for these businesses. So a lot of folks closed, as I mentioned, back in March and April because of the stay-at-home order. Couldn't do anything. The governor said, stay at home. So they said, well, why don't we go out and reach out to the Black business to see what's going on? So we talked to over 100 Black businesses. They told us what they needed. They needed money. They needed ways to change how their business works. And then they also needed support to open their business safely when it was time to open up, right? So one of the things with business, if we're going through this pandemic, the stay-at-home order ends, but people aren't comfortable coming to your business unless they know it's safe, right? So they created a marketplace, PPE marketplace, Black businesses can go, they can get masks, they can get hand sanitizer, they can get cleaning supplies, gloves, all for free. This marketplace is gonna launch in the next 2 weeks if the web designer can get it off the ground, finally. But now we got the donations, we, again, rally support, get resources, bring them in, now we can get it back out to the community, right? So businesses don't have to worry about that one thing. I went to the barbershop for the first time back in July, and I'm asking, like, where'd you get your mask from? They say, oh, I went to Home Depot. It's like, well, that's not sustainable. You can't buy, $15 every week going in there. That adds up every year, right? So this is one of the strategies. The other one, folks said they need mentors. They just need someone to talk them through, like, what bills do I pay right now? Which ones do I not? How do I restructure? How do I do this? And mentorship. So they're creating a one-to-one mentoring platform for folks to come in and get mentorship. So many things that are happening with this group, but when we figured out, instead of them working in silos, because they do their work in silos and it's all good, they do good, but when they came together, oh man, they became even more powerful. So we create space like that. So that's what we do, that's what we're about. James, I know you wanted me to talk about entrepreneurship, and we're talking to young folks, right? Are we talking
millennials for the most part, yeah.
So entrepreneurship, I'm just gonna touch on this unless you got a question. If you got a question, I won't go here yet, but the thing about entrepreneurship for me that I wanted to share before I got into all the other stuff, I kind of went on a tangent there, but the one thing about entrepreneurship is this concept of solving a problem. And many times people say, oh, I'm an entrepreneur because I'm out here and I got this, I got that. And it's like, well, it's really not about you when you're the entrepreneur. It's about what you're actually delivering to other people. What problem do they have that you solve for? Great, you can make a taco, that's awesome, but did anybody ask for it? Right? And having worked with entrepreneurs for 5 plus, actually 10 plus years when I count all the years, but the one thing that people kept coming saying, oh, I got this great idea. I'm like, great, well, who did you talk to about that? And why do they need it? And they can never answer that question. And that's where the ones that didn't survive, because they couldn't answer the question, well, who needed this? And why did you build it? So when we break that down, then it's like, well, what are the themes and the characteristics of entrepreneurship? And you're like, well, you've got to be someone that can listen and understand and analyze what's happening around you at any given time. If you can analyze what's going on and say, before anybody else does, this is what's going on, you guys. And if you can make sense of that, step one. 2 is then, well, what do I do with that information? And how do I make a plan to say, well, what if I tried this? What if I tried that? So when I went through entrepreneur program at St. Thomas during my MBA, we went through this whole concept of design thinking. And we would say, all right, identify the problem first. Great, all right, got the problem. Now, who's having that problem? Oh, well, everybody's not having a problem, but a specific group of people are having that problem right now. Well, let me go talk to them. And it's a thing called empathy. So when you listen to people, you gotta have empathy for them. Empathy is different than sympathy. Sympathy is like, I went through this, I know how you feel. Empathy is like, I listen to you and I can see the pain in your eyes right now. Okay, I understand, right? So if you empathize with somebody, now you can start to understand what that pain is, because every problem is not a problem worth solving, right? It's the problems that causes migraines. If I have a headache, I'm gonna go take a nap, drink some water, I'll call it a day. If I got a migraine, give me a solution, please, quickly, because I gotta get rid of this. I'm getting Excedrin, I'm going to the hospital, something, right? Mm-hmm. So when you empathize, you're looking for that migraine problem that people are having, right? So you empathize, you listen. Now you're gonna test some things. Like, well, I heard you say this. What if, and then you give them a prototype of you don't build it, you give them a prototype. It might be a picture, it might be a video, it might be something that's super simple and basic that they get the concept of what you're trying to deliver. And they say, oh, well, yeah, but what about this? So if you think about that whole concept of taco, if someone said, man, I really love Mexican food, man, I wish I can't find a place that has Mexican food here. Okay, great. Well, what if I gave you a taco? Well, I don't really like tacos, I like burritos. Oh, I'm gonna make a burrito now, right? So now you went through, like, what's the problem? Is it worth a problem that's worth solving for? And then let me give you a couple ideas before I go off into my lab and build something, right? So that's the initial concepts of entrepreneurship. And that's when you want to be the operator. We talked about earlier about entrepreneurship is hard. People think that you can just go and start a business like tomorrow and then you're gonna be making millions. No. In America, 95% of African American businesses are sole proprietors. 85% of that 95% makes less than $55,000 in revenue per year. Revenue is the top line. So when you're looking at an income statement, which is that shows you how much money you made and you didn't make, revenue, 55,000. That doesn't talk about profit, which is the bottom line, right?
Wow.
Right? So like when you say, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna start this thing, going out on it alone, the results are right there. But what if you say, look, I've got the idea, but I have to build a team around me. That team is the second kind of part of all of this. It's like, well, I know I'm good at this part of it. And it might be the visionary, might be the person that has the concept or has the expertise in the thing. But then you need someone that's really good with money. Help me understand how much I need to make in order for this to work. Tell me where I can get that money from, and when will I break even? Because I know I'm gonna have to spend money up front to make the money, right? Then it's something like, I can sell the thing that you're making. I know how to sell ice to an Eskimo, oil to a sea, whatever the thing is, but I can sell it. And then I can operate it. Like you tell me what you wanna build, I can create all the functions and processes and all the things that make it work really well. The customer service, the experience that people have when they come through that door and go out that door, I know how to do that. And then the last person, really, it just comes down to, strategy. Well, okay, we can do this today, but what does tomorrow look like? If you build that team of people, and it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or more people on your team, some of them could be mentors, some of them could be investors, some could be just, look, I'm in it with you, let's roll. But you gotta have a team to build it together. And when you think about that, it doesn't just show up in a small business. It may show up in the company you work for. It may show up in a nonprofit that you work with. There's so many ways to be an entrepreneur that it isn't just about starting your business. It might be joining someone else's business and finding your way up there and that you now get ownership in it with them. Because at the end of the day, it's really about ownership, right? You want to own something so that you have something to pass on to someone else, your family, your friends. But then that comes together and you're not contributing not just to yourself, but to others. So I'll stop right there and maybe there's a couple questions.
Questions?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for being involved in something so powerful. I've always valued the work that you do.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, how do people get engaged with the African American Leadership Forum?
So there's many entry points into the African American Leadership Forum, and we're building new ways every day. So I've been doing this now for 2 years, and when I came into this organization, it's 16 years old, but it was informally led and grew together organically through people that said, look, we want to make change. So what it looks like today to get involved is like show up to the different things that go on in the community that we promote. You can engage on our Facebook page, our website, the things that you're just like, okay, what's happening in the community? We're trying to curate different opportunities to people engage, become aware. At that point, you got to ask yourself, well, what do I want to contribute? And so when you come to our website, we ask you to become a contributor. And that means you give your time, your talent, or your treasure, right? Not everybody has to give money, but you have talent, right? You can do something uniquely that no one else can, and we need that. You have time, you can show up, you can be there for people. We need that too. So become a contributor, then that says, okay, well, now that you know how you want to, what do you want to contribute in? Do you want to contribute in one of our work streams? So when we create projects with other nonprofit and for-profit entities in the community, and we say, well, what does it look like to support you to do more of what you do? Or how do we create something that you're not able to do right now? And if we put people around that, now you can start to do it. For example, we have work streams this spring where we have 4 projects going on at one time. We had one in education where we had the group say, the problem is we don't have culturally specific curriculum teaching our young Black girls and boys in school. We want to teach teachers how to take their curriculum and make it more culturally appropriate. We worked with the Minnesota Humanities Center that wanted to create this institute. And then we had a work stream of people, 12 people that are education folks that like, that's where I want to make my mark. they came in and they helped them create a continuing education program was gonna launch in MBA, but then all this kind of happened. So it's gonna launch in February. Another one was, we don't have enough culturally specific mental health providers that are accessible in our community. And we worked with the Cultural Wellness Center and said, okay, we'll have this partnership and you will be the vendor to the city of Minneapolis, and you are gonna create a directory for cultural healers. And we're gonna create a way for those cultural healers, the ones that show up on the street when someone gets shot, the one that, creates space for people in churches and different places to get paid. Because a lot of times they're out there and they're not getting paid. So now there's a directory and a pathway to get paid, right? Another one was actually was internal to us, is that we wanted to create a Black futures fund, meaning that we wanted a capital fund that we can aggregate money that buys buildings, does development, buys businesses, helps businesses out, and creates a more centralized African-American owned and led community. So a group of 12 came in and said, that's what I want to do. So we try to create these opportunities so often so that more people can get involved. Because one of the challenges we have in community is oftentimes it's the same people trying to do the stuff all the time, and it's not creating more space for more people to get in. We need more people to get in. Tag in, get your work done, tag out, because you got a life to live, right? A lot of times that we were faced with was, you never knew when you couldn't get out. So the question you asked about how do you get in, folks didn't know how they got out. Right? And that's a real problem, because it's like when you commit yourself to community development, it's hard for you to say, I need a break. It's hard for you to say, look, I'm tired, I've got life happening, right? And so when we talked about the 4 pillars of leadership, we also said, well, before you select one of those 4, ask yourself, are you ready? Meaning, are you healthy? Are you whole? Are you thorough? And are you willing, right? Thoroughness means that you have gone through the building of yourself, the skills and capabilities. You might have got it through, hard knocks, the school of hard knocks, or in school. You might have got it through other ways of developing your personal skill, right? Healthy means you mentally, physically, emotionally, you've taken care of yourself, right? Whole means that now you can actually apply what you've learned in a meaningful way, right? And then willing is I'm willing to work with other people. I'm not gonna come in and bombard everybody. I'm willing to say, okay, what's happening? I'm coming in late. What do I need to know? Okay, I can plug myself in now. Yeah.
Do you have some type of mentoring program where you can bring in the youth to follow what you guys are doing?
We're working on that. So
that'd be great.
Mainly we've been working with adults and building this network of adults. Kids are our next adults. Youth are our next adults. So one of the strategies we have, or one of the programs we have, is the Josie R. Johnson Leadership Academy. And if you know Dr. Josie Johnson, she is she's the mother of community. She's done so much, right? And so we named this program after her 6 years ago, because she's the example we're trying to instill in other folks. And this academy brings a cohort of 15 to 20 people per year, and it's cross-generational. So we do have young folks that are in the 20s. And then we have I think our oldest fellow this year is 73, right? And so you got cross-generational, cross-sector, cross-experience coming together to build community together. And we're realizing and trying to invest in them, because often we're not being invested in the spaces we're at. So we're you're gonna get coaching, so they get a professional coach. They get community excursions, so they come to different places in the community to learn about the history of community, right? And then they get access to torchbearers, so people that have been putting in work year after year, that are ready to pour back into other people because they're ready to pass that baton, that torch to the next folks, right? So we're seeing okay, now that we've been doing this there, can we bring youth in and do something similar, or at least connect the youth to these fellows? That was the goal for this year, but COVID messed everything up. So 2021, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.